what do you make of the sentiments by Deputy President Ruto? Because he has missed other functions, and this is one of them, that he has also mentioned things to do with money being used illegally or wrongly.
I think the fact that he did not attend the Naivasha meeting is not lost on us, that he was not invited, and people from his faction were not invited. But we saw excuses from the organizers of the meeting saying, you know, they were adhering to COVID protocols, which is laughable, because we know why some quotas were not invited. And I think in the history of constitutional making, especially after 1997, Naivasha has become a mutilation venue. You have a very nice idea and document, and then it is taken to Naivasha and it comes out as something else. So the kind of consensus that goes on in Naivasha is not consensus in the real definition of consensus. It's some negotiated arrangements by politicians. But I want to fault the Deputy President in one thing, that he is not maintaining consistency in terms of honesty. On one hand, he's telling us that you know, we will stop reggae. This is not something that we will allow to pass through. On the other, he's coming out sober and saying we must have consensus. So we know where he stands, but sometimes he comes out and it appears as though he does not know where he stands. Because if you're opposing this report, then oppose it in its entirety. You do not come in when you're meeting certain quarters and then you begin saying, but we need to have a consensus, you know, we need to agree. I think I fault him on that. He's on both sides of this divide. But that said, it is important that we build consensus around these issues, because in as much as the BBI task force is saying it went around the country, if you look at the annex to the BBI report, this report that we are now discussing, you have about less than 400 people listed, individuals listed as having participated, sent their emails and stuff like that. Then you have groups, individuals, mostly comprised of politicians. If you remove groups that comprise of politicians, then you have a very small demographic that actually participated in airing their views. And that is not to discount people who gave their views. What I think was missing was meaningful public participation. Not just holding a baraza where politicians are addressing the people and telling them this is what you need. I think meaningful public participation means that the people are coming up with solutions to their problems, rather than the political class telling them, by the way, this is what you need. I think we turned it over its head.
Okay, fair enough. Now, these senators, before these particular in Naivasha, before they went for this consensus meeting, they were expressing concerns over the watering down of the powers of the Senate. And in the after meeting, they are now saying something different. They have changed the song. If we could listen into what Senator Orengo said after they have had that meeting in Naivasha over the weekend.
Bridges initiative was one that went round the country seeking the view of all Kenyans, which has culminated in the report that we now have. The report seeks to ensure that no one is left behind by creating shared prosperity. Shared prosperity means that all communities in Kenya, from all corners, have a share in the resources. One of the methods that this will be achieved is by increasing the minimum amount of shareable revenue to the counties from 15% to 35%, ensuring that greater resources percolate to every corner of Kenya. Further, it creates a ward development fund, which will be resourced with 5% of shareable allocation. Youth are equally catered for under BBI. Our youth have a host of issues that have prevented them from achieving their full potential. The issues have hampered the youth, and they're now faced with numerous problems that make their lives a bit of a misery. BBI, the process called the Building Bridges Initiative, was one that went round the country seeking the view of all Kenyans, which has culminated in the report that we now have. The report seeks to ensure that no one is...
There were concerns raised to the power of the Senate, and now the 15 to 35%, they haven't even told us how they will get to that, who is going to fund that, and Wanjiku and Kinyi have been suffering. What's your stand on this?
Two things. To Senior Orengo. Honesty is the best policy. What do I mean? You're talking about the youth have faced challenges that he's named. I'll tell you for free. That photo you've seen there, that is the problem facing the youth. That photo, I'll tell you, that is the entire misery, the pain, the unemployment, everything in one photo. They say a photo is 1,000 words. Right. That is it. Now, shared prosperity, laughable, right? Because why do you reduce Kenya into communities? When you're talking about leadership, that's a problem. We have politicians and our leaders. When you're talking about leadership, why do you see me as a, let's say, Kikuyu, and you as a, let's say, Luo? Why can't I see you as a Kenyan? Serve the people, because we are Kenyans. Serve the people as citizens of Kenya. You see, that's why I'm saying that is a problem that we're seeing right there. So, the issue, like you just raised, they've changed their tone. That is because political parties in Kenya are owned by individuals. They are owned by individuals. We have Jubilee, we've seen the owner there. We have seen the owner of ODM there. And so they will be panel beaten to a certain tone. When you talk about, they are saying every county will have 2 senators, a male and female. My question to them is, they are forgetting, but my question to them is one. What happens when it comes to voting? Remember, Senate votes via delegation. What happens when both senators are not on the same side? That is a question they should answer.
I think just in addition to what he said, first I should mention that the owner of Jubilee was not present. That was the caretaker. I think the owners have been speaking behind the behind the scenes. But that said, when we are talking about the issue of a Senate that has been watered down, if we adopt the kind of structure that is being proposed, where the executive is in committee with Parliament, where the executive sits in Parliament and Parliament, sits in the executive, then most functions that are currently under the National Assembly should move to Senate, because Senate as presently structured is already watered down, and it happened in Naivasha again, coincidentally. But for us to go the way we are proposing to go, we must have Senate as an upper house, and it happens across the world where you have a bicameral parliament. So I think that is something that we must consider, that Senate must be an upper house. It must be given more roles, because now you'd have a National Assembly that is not really playing oversight, but is working towards government agenda. So that is something that must be addressed. But I must also fault Senate for this, that even with the little authority and roles that they have been given under the current constitution, they have not really performed their best. We have seen committees of Senate, for example, when they are grilling governors, playing politics and playing card games with governors, yet they are supposed to be very decisive and to take very stern action against such individuals. So I think Senate has failed in that manner. But that said, we must also improve Senate. And as we talk about the youth, it is disappointing that Senior Orengo is saying that the youth are covered under BBI. Recently asked a colleague of mine to pinpoint where the youth are covered under BBI, where the youth are benefiting. And if we go systematically, and I'm glad my colleague has mentioned that these things that are being sold to the youth so that the youth buy into BBI are things that the Jubilee government has failed to do. when you talk about HELB, it doesn't even have to do with amending the HELB Act. It has to do with policy. And in addition to what he has said, I have friends. In fact, this afternoon I was talking to a colleague of mine who is now practicing as an advocate. But at the time that he was not, he actually wrote to HELB. And since that time to the time he started making remittances to HELB, he was not queried about paying back his loan. So this is a policy issue. It does not even have to do with statutory amendment. That is one. Two, when you're talking about the youth being covered in terms of, and Nurdin has mentioned this, in terms of a tax holiday, the people who will benefit most are not the youth, because we have seen in tenders across board where you have individuals who are benefiting through youth. So you have an individual who is perhaps 60 years old, a politician somewhere, who uses a youth to register a company, and then that company is used to obtain a tender, and then they are paid. So in that case, then, should you grant a tax holiday? There are some issues that are impracticable. They may appear flowery and selling it to certain sections of our society, but then they're impracticable. Okay. So I do not think that the youth are covered anywhere. In any case, the current constitution covers the youth more than what the BBI proposes.